listen, when the governor calls and says I'm coming in and I'm bringing resources that truly, when it comes to snow removal, is something that's going to definitely help. There's no doubt. You guys don't have a choice. It's like you got to be there.
Yeah, it's one of those calls that you try to make and determine what you need. I recall a few years ago when we had the flooding, and the governor was calling us as much as everybody else. But look, I get it. It's a big state too, and I understand. Maybe I understand the dynamics a little bit better because I've been around, or I accept it a little more. And a few times he wanted to come here, and I said, "Look, go to Herkimer." Yeah, and I'm not saying that because Herkimer is raising.
The mayor took a shot.
Yeah, I know, I
wonder, is that a good? He's frustrated, but a good idea to, because he took a shot with some behind the scenes information.
I was gonna say no.
You say no? You don't think that was a good idea?
I didn't hear the whole.
I talked about the governor's aide that's calling. You're shaking your head, Manaski.
He won't get another one of those calls.
I know, that's because if she calls and asks what do you need, and he's revealing that, that's probably one of those things that could have been kept quiet, but he's frustrated. Sure. I mean,
sure, these are events that frustrate a lot of us. It's because you're dealing with so many different aspects, especially on the countywide basis, and it's one of those judgment call things. But at the same time, the governor's coming to your area. If you get a minute in front of a governor or president,
you got to do it. I get
people
get
criticized when the president came a couple years ago and I talked to him.
Right.
It's the business we're in too.
He even shook his hand for a
long time.
Yeah, for a long time. All right,
I'm bringing that up again, Bill.
I'm not going to bring you into any of the other stuff either. Even my opinion on what reporters should have done yesterday. Any of that. It's not your thing, and I'm not going to bring you into all of that. But yes, I am going to calm down. I'm going to bring it back just a little bit.
Bring it back.
But it is what it is. All right, I do want, because we've been trying to get this together, and the storm really did get in the way of us talking about
the tough one.
Your state of the county and the plans. And let's start with the mayor of Whitesboro, Pat O'Connor, saying, before and I'll paraphrase, before the county executive starts really looking at what our municipalities are doing, our cities and towns, he had to look at what he's doing. They're spending over budget every single year. It's all at the comptroller's on the comptroller's website. How do you respond to that?
Well, I respond in a couple ways. I mean, I've seen Pat, since my stay. The county says, "Hey, you're right on track. I think what you're doing is great." Never mentioned that you guys got to stop spending. So, but I'd be glad to run through and explain the county budget to him. Now, the website I thought he referred to was See-Through New York, which is not
I believe so.
Which is not the controller's website, because See-Through it's a good site, and it's one of those sites that you can find all the information that you try to look for in terms of salaries and budgets and whatever. Now, the one thing See-Through does, because I looked at it, because it was curious to me, saying we overspent.
By 310 million.
Over an 8-year period. Yeah. Which is completely untrue and fabricated in that regard. I will clarify a couple points on that, because See-Through adds in all of your debt, all of what you borrow in that year's time, all of what you also they include on our end the sewer district, which is a separate budget, separate and distinct because it's a separate district. So there's a lot of different factors in that. So now, have we overspent? In a few years we have, and let me explain how. When we put a budget together, but not in the budget itself, because every one of the budgets I brought in balanced, and I brought in under budget. I've never gone over a budget in my time in office, over the prescribed budget. What we do at the end of the year, however, is we pay some bills, and we pay that out of fund balance. And See-Through looks at that you had a budget, and I'm just using a number of $350 million. But you spent in that year $370 million.
So if you spent to get ahead,
so if I and this is all public record, and we talked about it. There have been years I've deferred retirement payments. We talked about that numerous times, because I deferred it over 5 years, and then I paid it later. And when I pay it later, it's not budgeted though, because I don't know when I'm going to pay it. It's one of those. It's one of those bills that you have in your household that you put aside, and you say, you know what? Let's knock down this credit card bill next, at the end of the year. So that retirement was one. Pay-as-you-go capital was another. Other expenses of tax certiorari's that we talked about, before. So those are I'd be glad to run it through him and explain it to him. Those are the ones where it says we've where we've extended or gone over budget, which is not true.
Is it? Can I just be? And I want to get to the. I want to just get through this, and then we'll get to the other stuff because we can. We'll spend time with this. I promise you that we'd spend time on this issue. Yep. I do. Is it just that the mayors are nervous? They're nervous that you're going to come in and you're going to, if this all goes through what the governor is proposing, that you're going to use the sales tax to force them to consolidate, and that they're being left out of the process. Well, it seems to be his field that he's being left out.
Well, it's interesting. Left out. The villages were left out by a membership on the committee initially, and that's what what got them up in arms. However, I had invited village mayors and a few of them to come and speak with the committee, and the village mayors held a couple meetings, which I asked to come to, and they said no. So I asked point blank, I'd be glad to come as long as you're meeting and explain my position and what's going on and try to work through some of this. They refused. That's unfortunate. Going forward, my point with the village mayors, in particular villages like Whitesboro, New York Mills, Yorkville, whom I know, and I know them all very well. They're all great people, and we work well together. I have a great concern, and I talked to one of the mayors the other day from one of the other villages. I have a great concern that I think they're missing out on is that, and if you listen to what I've said all along in terms of this in my speech, is we can't sustain this.
Yeah.
And in particular, when it comes to the villages, and one of the things I mentioned when we were talking about budgets was sewers. They are, this consent order and this sewer repair is going to cost village residents millions of dollars over time, which when added to their annual budgets and their annual bills is going to really put them in bad straits. That's my point. My point is let us do some things now and remove that burden from you and remove that and consolidate and look at areas. And clearly, there are prime areas, and you have to look at what are they using their sales tax dollars for. So it's not a matter of these are people are paying for it. Everybody's paying for it. Everybody throughout the county pays for everybody's sales tax. Nobody gets segmented in terms of this is what Yorkville spent in sales tax. This is what Camden spent in sales tax. This is what New Hartford spent. It's all the pool. So everybody contributes to that pool. And at the end of the day, you look at it and say, okay, what are your choices and what are you doing with that money? Mm-hmm. And is it put to use the right way? Should there be consolidation? Should there be areas of shared services? I referred in the speech, and there was a big piece about this, of the radio system that we're entering into and upgrading to $7.5 million. If we were to go to every municipality for money, they couldn't do that. And we could never do that. The benefit of one entity being able to do that for the county. And, in the case of Whitesboro, we've offered them, numerous times certain equipment that they choose to go and buy on their own. Right. So you can't have it both ways either and say that you're trying to save money, but you're not taking what the county has offered in terms of, AVLs for their police, computers for their police and fire that are of no cost. No cost. It's a system. Everybody wants to be independent. It's unfortunate. That's not going to help us in the future.
And if this whole thing comes to fruition through the governor's plan, you'll be required by law, really, by this law, if it happens, to bring everybody in and meet with everybody and form a committee to that. Obviously,
and then put something on the ballot. So it's not mine. It's not my decision.
And then the people will vote on
regard. It's not. It's not me saying I'm dismantling it. My point is, if before this, let's get together and talk about some ways. There's got to be ways.
I do think there's a piece missing, though, and where the county, and probably if the governor wants to do this, the state, would be able to come in and say, here's how you can do it. I almost feel like what we're getting from the villages is basically higher levels of government want us to consolidate, but they don't really tell us how or where to do it. There's no suggestion or push to do it here. And I know you leave it up to them, which is a freedom on their end, consolidate, but find it out on your own. Does the state have a blueprint or a formula where they can come in and say, if you consolidated police, you'd save $4 million or $1 million or whatever the number?
I could show you that without the state coming in and telling you that. And the same goes for public works. I think you have to look at what the villages have. What are their functions of government that they provide to their residents? And I'm not saying they're not They're not useful or they're not important. But who else is doing them? If you have a village within a town that is doing public works, public safety, codes, all the same things, why aren't they doing it together?
Right.
And why isn't that the economy of scale that comes into play?
So the word shared services, the phrase shared services.
Shared services is one thing. That's about sharing services that we
This is truly going to be about consolidation.
Well, I think it has to be about consolidation at some point, because you have to get and consolidation does not mean less services. It means less expenses.
All right, I want you to sit tight because we're going to break.